Hello, greetings and salutations. Panda here, and I want to share with you my thoughts on the recent Oregon election. I am not a streamer, I'm not a political activist, I'm not a journalist, I am just a nerd. I have a weird way of looking at numbers, and I recognize patterns with regards to numbers. This is my first video ever. I don't even normally video chat, so if my eyes are going all over the place or it seems like I don't know what I'm doing, you're right, I really don't know what I'm doing. So bear with me, and hopefully this won't be too painful. So I've been following the election since November 8th, but I got really curious about it November 28th. That's when I noticed that measure 111 and 114 were passing by the same exact narrow margin. They were both passing with 50.7% yes. And I thought to myself, that's kind of weird, they're not even off by 0.1%. Is this a coincidence? Is this intentional? I don't know. And rather than assume, I did like any good nerd would do, and I dove into the numbers and I did some analysis to formulate my own opinion, and here it is. So, just a little bit of background before we get into it. Oregon has been doing mail-in ballots since 1987, so it takes us longer. In fact, I believe we still have not officially announced any results. We have 20 business days to count. That works out on average to about just under 100,000 ballots a day if we were to count an equal amount over all that time. Now, we know that we can do way more than that. On November 9th, if I remember correctly, we had counted over 50% of the ballots, which would have been about 1 million. So obviously that 100,000 a day isn't a limitation at all. So according to the Secretary of State elections calendar, there are a couple of dates, or a few dates, that I want to note. Now, a lot of the language is convoluted. I may have misinterpreted this, but this is what I understand to be these dates. So, December 5th appears to be the last day to count ballots. December 8th is the effective date of measures passed. That means that any measures that do not have an effective date already written into them will go into effect on 12/8 if they have been voted in. 12/15 is the last day for the governor to sign measures into law. And 12/23 is the last day for districts to certify the counts. Now, unless I am gravely misunderstanding something, shouldn't those last three be reversed? Now, I would think that the districts would need to certify so that we know election results before the governor could sign the measures into law, and that the governor would need to sign the measures into law before the actual effective date. But if I am misunderstanding, someone please help me understand this. I really just want to get to the bottom of it. So without further ado, I have collected data from the Secretary of State official website and also the Statesman Journal. The Statesman Journal, I used daily subtotals for each of the races. I did spot check them with other sources. They look to be accurate, so I just used those for that data. And let's dive in. There is a lot to go into. Please feel free to pause at any time, look over my data, verify it for yourself, form your own opinions. This is just what I see, but again, I could be mistaken. Please, if there's something I'm missing, let me know. And without further ado, we're going to dive right into it. Okay, now this one shows the total number of ballots received per county per day, starting on October 21st all the way through November 8th, and also the percentage of total ballots returned that each day represents. Now, if you look at this pattern, as we go here the last 3 days, the percentages increase, and with the largest percentage being the last day, November 8th. Now here I've highlighted this one and this one. These do not follow that pattern, which is very unusual. Then also, if you look here, here, and here, these are unusually low number of ballots received that don't follow the pattern of everything else. And then also, if you note here that Clackamas has both anomalies. Okay, this one has a lot of data on it. It's pretty much an overview. First of all, here we have, again, the total number of ballots returned per county. This would be the total number of Democrat ballots returned and the total number of Republican ballots returned. Now, keep in mind, these 3 sets of data are from the Secretary of State, from the spreadsheet that only includes up through 11/8. So we do not know the breakdown, Democrat versus Republican, of any of the ballots received after 11/8. This is going to be important to remember. Also here, for each race, senator, governor, these are the House races and the measures. Again, these are total numbers. These are not breakdowns. We also see here basically everything that is highlighted. This is where we have counted more than the received ballots. So as you can see here, in the governor race, we have many more counties where we received more ballots than what was listed by the Secretary of State than we do in the other races. Okay, here we have a further breakdown of the votes on the 4 measures, 111, 112, 113, and 114. Like I said earlier, we're going to really just be focusing on measure 111 and 114, but this gives you the overall picture. If you notice here, again, we have the highlighted areas are the number or the percentage of ballots that were overcounted. One thing to note is for both 111 and 114. The difference in voting was much smaller than the amount of ballots that were overcounted. Again, those are ballots that we have no idea what the actual breakdown is, so we can see if it's unusual or anything like that. Also, the thing I'd like to note is here, Clackamas County, basically on average, approximately 55% over what was reported, which means that there is a huge number there that could go any which way it wants to. This is just a direct comparison between measure 111 and 114. I wanted to just highlight a pattern here. If you look at the no percentage on measure 114, it's consistently 5 to 15% greater than the no percentage here on measure 111. What I've done is I have highlighted those that don't fit that pattern, but just pay attention. Clackamas, Lane, Multnomah, and Washington are all highlighted here. This is just a data sampling of the changes in totals for the last few days, basically. This is 11:30 to 12:02, 12:02 to 12:05, 12:05 to 12:06. Now, not a lot of counties change, as you can see, but I did highlight some interesting things. For instance, here we have Clatsop, and all of these ballots were counted for the 4 measures, but there were absolutely 0 ballots counted for any of the other races, which seems rather odd since all of these issues are on the same ballot. I'm not sure how that happens. If you look at this one, they're small numbers, so that could be the reason for it. I just found it interesting that there's over twice as many ballots for some things than others for this day. And then the final thing I wanted to point out is Multnomah County. And how do we get minus votes? If you're counting ballots, I don't know how you can come up with a negative change. Anyway, that was it for this. And this one is a continuation of the last slide. Basically, it is breaking down the daily changes, also by Republican, Democrat, and yes and no votes. So going a little bit deeper in, I went ahead and eliminated any of the counties that didn't have changes for that day. So these are the only applicable data points that we have for this. If you look here, we have several duplication of numbers. I've tried to color code them, but there is also an interesting pattern in the duplications. For instance, here, those are duplicates, and these are also duplicates. Same thing here, 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 and here. And I just find it odd that there's a pattern of duplicates that actually mirrors each other like that. Also, I've highlighted here again, we've got all the measure changes, but not a single change in any of the other races. Here, We have the Republicans got exactly 2 times the Democrat. That's just odd that it's exactly 2. It could be a coincidence. Here, these are just very even numbers. I'm not used to seeing that type of consistently even numberage, if that's a word. Sorry, I've been at this for a while. So, and then finally down here, I'm still not quite sure how we're getting negatives, especially now we're getting -2. Again, please note, we've got Clackamas, we have Multnomah, we have Washington, we have Lane, and Multnomah again. So, just a note. So by now, I've shown you several anomalies and patterns, areas where it looks like data may have been manipulated. And based on that, I ran 2 scenarios to show how easily things could have changed. The first one being I took 4 counties. These are 4 counties that are repeatedly on the anomaly list. That would be Clackamas, Lane, Multnomah, and Washington. And I adjusted the votes by 3%. Not a huge adjustment. And by adjusting those 4 counties by 3%, in both measure 111 and 114, the balance shifted. So that's scenario A. Scenario B, let's ignore all of the counties except for Clackamas. Now remember, this is the county that counted 60% more ballots than they reported that they received. Again, that's 60%. We have no idea what the breakdown is of those actual ballots. So I just took that one. Let's say that there was an adjustment made and that there was a 10% shift in those ballots somehow. And voila, if you do a 10% shift in both races in that one county, suddenly, again, the balance has shifted. A few final notes. There are more patterns that I didn't note in the previous segment. This video's gone on long enough, and I could go on and on and on with different number patterns that I see that don't make sense. But I will leave you with one more. If I were doing a business audit and I saw a bunch of numbers that looked made up, I would investigate further. For instance, and I am only taking examples from measure 111 and 114, since that's what we are focusing on this video. But for example, when you see a bunch of even numbers, say divisible by 100, for example, 15500, 10900, 8000, 76400, those would all raise red flags, especially if they were right next to each other or very close to each other. Another pattern that I'm seeing is there are a lot of repeating digits. These are some of the more extreme examples that I see, but again, these would raise red flags if I were doing an audit for a business. For instance, 34433, 7111, 42666, and 57888. like I said, those are just a few. I could list a bunch more, but I don't want to keep you here forever. Anyway, that is what I've been able to come up with so far. I really hope I'm wrong. I hope there is something that I'm missing that maybe could shed some light on this. I don't want to think that we live in a flawed system, but so far I'm not seeing a lot of positivity with regards to that. But anyway, I hope I'm wrong. And a way to prove it either way is by providing me with some more info. Basically, this is what I would need in order to confirm or disprove my theories. I would need the vote breakdowns from the Secretary of State, like we had for the ballots received from 10/21 to 11/8. I would need that same data from 11/9 to 11/15. I would also need the daily subtotals per candidate or per measure by county for each day. So basically a subtotal, a daily subtotal of where we are on the ballot count. Another thing that I would need would be the number of ballots adjudicated by county by day. And then the last piece of info that I would like to see, but this is actually not completely necessary in order to further analyze this, but I would like to see a breakdown of how many mail-in ballots versus how many drop box ballots were received per county from 10/21 to 11/8. Anyway, if there is anyone out there that can provide me with this data, please forward it to me. I really want to get to the bottom of this. Please feel free to share it. I really just seek clarity. Thanks for listening. Panda out.